The glass towers of Seoul's financial district pierced the winter sky like frozen needles. Inside the Choi International Building, power hummed through marble corridors, where assistants moved in synchronized silence, where every breath carried the weight of expectation. This was the domain of Choi Min-jae, a man whose name alone could shift markets, whose coldness was legendary even in a city built on precision. And then there was Zara. She existed in the margins, her mop gliding across floors that reflected a world she didn't belong to. Nigerian by birth, Korean by necessity, she worked with the quiet efficiency of someone who had learned to disappear. But Min-jae noticed her. He always noticed details others missed. This particular morning, his practiced eye caught the way she flinched when the elevator doors opened too suddenly. The tremor in her fingers as she gripped the cleaning cart. The careful way she positioned her scarf, even indoors, as if shielding more than just her neck from the cold. Their eyes met once, briefly, and she looked away so fast it felt like an apology. Min-jae's jaw tightened. In his world of calculated moves and strategic partnerships, that kind of fear meant only one thing. Someone had taught her to be afraid. In the basement-level cafeteria, where the building's invisible workers gathered, Zara sat alone. Her lunch lay untouched, rice growing cold in its container. When her phone lit up on the metal table, her entire body went rigid. The transformation was instant, shoulders curling inward, breath catching. She didn't answer the call. She simply stared at the screen until it went dark, then pressed both palms flat against the table, as if anchoring herself to reality. Min-jae, cutting through on his way to a parking garage meeting, witnessed the moment. He saw the terror that flashed across her features, the silent words her lips formed. He couldn't hear them, but they looked like a plea. That night, after the building emptied and Seoul's electric glow claimed the darkness, Zara remained. She moved through the executive wing, erasing the day's footprints from polished surfaces. Then she stopped, frozen mid-motion. Through the glass entrance, a figure stood on the sidewalk. Tall, unmistakable, his stance radiating ownership. Her breath died in her throat. She knew that silhouette the way prey knows the hunter. Broad across the chest, head tilted in that particular way that meant he was already imagining his hands on her. She had crossed continents to escape this shadow, yet here it stood, refusing to release its claim. 15 floors above, Min-jae's office remained illuminated. He happened to glance down at the street, catching sight of the man whose very posture screamed threat. Min-jae's eyes narrowed. He didn't know the connection yet, but his instincts, honed by years of reading intentions in boardrooms, told him everything he needed to know. Someone was stalking her, and that someone had just made the mistake of bringing his hunt to Min-jae's territory. Morning light filtered through the building's glass facade, turning everything into sharp angles and bright surfaces. Zara moved through it all like a spectre, present but not quite there. Her cloth swept across windows, but her eyes remained distant, as if her mind walked through different rooms entirely, darker ones from which she'd never fully escaped. Choi Min-jae stood near the reception area, documents spread before him, when she passed. Her sleeves shifted just enough, purple and yellow bloomed across her brown skin, layered bruises telling stories her mouth refused to speak. His assistant continued talking about quarterly projections, but Min-jae had stopped listening. The meeting room later felt airless despite its size. Min-jae sat through presentations, nodding at appropriate moments, but his thoughts circled back to that glimpse of violence written on flesh. These weren't the marks of clumsiness. They were precise, deliberate, a map of cruelty. When his executives finally filed out, Min-jae didn't head to his next appointment. Instead, he found himself in the service corridor, drawn by something he couldn't name. Zara knelt beside a bucket, wringing out a cloth. Zara, his voice cut through the quiet. She jerked upright, eyes wide with the particular fear of someone accustomed to punishment. Yes, sir. Her accent shaped the Korean words differently, softer somehow. How long have you been with the company? 8 months now, sir, she corrected quickly. Min-jae studied her, noting the careful way she held her left shoulder. In those 8 months, you've never requested a single day off. She gripped the mop handle tighter. I need the work, sir, more than I need rest. There was steel beneath the submission, but fear tempered it. He opened his mouth to probe deeper when her phone vibrated. The sound shattered her composure like glass. She fumbled for it, and in that fumble he saw the name on the screen. Kehinde. Just that one word, but her face drained of color, as if she'd seen a ghost. She shoved the phone away, nearly knocking over her bucket. "Excuse me, sir." The words tumbled out as she fled past him, abandoning her cart in her desperation to escape. Min Jae remained motionless, pieces assembling in his mind, the bruises, the terror, the name that turned her into prey. That evening, he lingered in his office long after sunset. Through the glass wall, he watched Zara clean the executive lounge, but this time she wasn't alone. A man stood partially concealed by the doorframe, the same figure from last night's vigil. His presence filled the space with unspoken threat. Zara's hands shook as she scrubbed, pretending not to notice him. But Min Jae saw everything, the trembling, the rigid spine, the way she made herself smaller. And in that moment something crystallized in Choi Min Jae's chest. He'd built an empire on recognizing threats and eliminating them. This threat, stalking through his building, terrorizing someone under his roof, would not stand. The cold Seoul air carried the scent of distant snow as Min Jae exited the building. He timed it deliberately. Zara clutched her worn coat tighter, moving with the quick steps of someone trying to outrun her own shadow. But shadows don't tire. A man emerged from beside a parked sedan, his voice cracking through the night like a whip. "Zara." She stopped. Not because she wanted to, but because her body remembered the cost of disobedience. Slowly, so slowly, she turned. Kehinde. The name barely escaped her lips. His eyes raked over her, possessive and cold. "You think you can hide on the other side of the world? Do you know what I've sacrificed to find you?" Her fingers tightened around her bag. "Please, not here." But Kehinde stepped closer. "You belong with me. Running doesn't change what you are. Mine." The word hung in the air like a noose. Then another voice intervened, sharp and unyielding. "Is there a problem?" Both turned. Choi Min Jae stood framed by the building's light, his tailored coat catching the glow of street lamps. His gaze moved from Zara's trembling form to the man who loomed over her. Kehinde straightened, trying to reclaim authority. "Family business. Stay out of it." Min Jae's expression remained impassive. "She's my employee. Any threat to her concerns me directly." Zara's heart lurched. "Sir, please, I can handle this." The crack in her voice betrayed the lie. Min Jae didn't move, but his presence seemed to expand, filling the space between them. He assessed Kehinde with the same cold precision he used on hostile competitors. Kehinde forced a smile, though uncertainty crept into his stance. "You don't understand our situation." "What I understand," Min Jae said quietly, "is that you're harassing my staff outside my building. Leave. Now." The command cut clean. Kehinde's fists clenched, his jaw working. But something in Min Jae's unwavering stare, backed by the weight of a man who controlled billions, made him hesitate. With a muttered curse in Yoruba, Kehinde retreated. "This isn't finished," he hissed at Zara before disappearing into the dark streets. Zara stood frozen, tears tracking down her face despite her efforts to contain them. Min Jae regarded her quietly. "You're not handling it." She couldn't speak, could only shake her head, drowning in shame and relief and terror all at once. For the first time, Choi Min Jae felt something pierce the armor he'd spent decades constructing. Not pity, but fury on behalf of someone who'd been taught that her fear didn't matter. The Choi International building thrummed with its usual energy the next day. Phones ringing, heels clicking against marble, the scent of expensive coffee drifting from the executive cafe. But Zara moved through it like she was underwater, every sound muffled, every step requiring conscious effort. Dark circles shadowed her eyes, and her hands shook when she thought no one was watching. From his office, Min Jae watched. His morning briefing continued, charts and figures projected on screens, but his attention kept drifting to the woman polishing glass panels in the corridor. Each time footsteps approached suddenly, she flinched. Every time her phone buzzed, her entire body tensed as if bracing for impact. After dismissing his team earlier than usual, he sat alone at his desk, fingers steepled. Control had always been his strength, reading patterns, anticipating moves, staying 3 steps ahead, and Zara's fear was a pattern screaming warnings he couldn't ignore. By midday, he'd summoned Lee Jun-ho, his security director. "There was a man outside last night," Min Jae said without preamble. "Nigerian, tall, aggressive posture. I need everything on him." Junho hesitated. Should we involve authorities, sir? Not yet. Min Jae's tone left no room for debate. Discretion first. When Junho left, Min Jae's gaze returned to the corridor below. Zara was cleaning the elevator banks now, her reflection fragmented in the chrome panels. He stepped out of his office. Employees straightened as he passed. He rarely descended to the service levels, but today he stopped exactly where she worked. Zara, he said. Her hand froze mid-wipe. She turned slowly, pupils dilating. Yes, sir. You missed a section. He gestured to the panel. Confusion flickered across her face before she quickly scrubbed the spot until it gleamed. When she straightened, he was still watching. You've been distracted, he said quietly. No, sir. I'm fine. The automatic response, hollow as an empty room. Min Jae's eyes narrowed. Fine doesn't jump at every sound. Her lips parted in shock, a tremor running through her. Please don't. Her voice dropped to barely a whisper. Silence stretched between them, heavy with things unsaid. Then, softer than he'd intended, Min Jae spoke. You don't have to carry this alone. Her eyes snapped up, meeting his for a heartbeat. In that moment her defenses cracked, revealing the war she fought daily, fear, shame, and underneath it all, a desperate hope she was terrified to acknowledge. But then she stepped back, shaking her head. Thank you, sir. But this isn't your burden. She turned away, resuming her work with trembling hands. Min Jae stood motionless, expression unreadable. But inside, his decision had already formed. If she wouldn't speak the truth, he would uncover it himself. Min Jae's office overlooked Seoul's sprawling cityscape, but tonight he only saw the folder on his desk. Lee Junho stood before him, posture military straight. We found him, sir. Name, Kehinde Oladele. Nigerian national, entered Korea 2 months ago on a tourist visa that's about to expire. His record back home. Junho paused. Multiple domestic violence reports, all withdrawn before prosecution. Min Jae's hands curled into fists. Withdrawn, same victim every time, sir. Zara. For a moment, Min Jae's carefully maintained composure cracked. He thought of her trembling hands, the bruises she tried to hide, the way she shrank when her phone lit up. Is he dangerous? Min Jae asked, though he already knew. Very, sir. Unstable. Obsessive. He's been watching the building at night, asking about her movements. Security has logged 3 incidents this week alone. Min Jae's jaw set hard as stone. Increase security at every entrance. Make sure he can't get within 100 meters of this building. And keep this quiet. Yes, sir. When Junho left, the office fell silent, except for Seoul's distant hum. Min Jae had spent his career neutralizing threats, corporate raiders, hostile takeovers, competitors who mistook his youth for weakness. But this was different. This was personal in a way that unsettled him. That afternoon, Zara entered the executive lounge, arms laden with cleaning supplies. She worked methodically, eyes down, unaware that conversations about her safety had just concluded upstairs. Min Jae appeared in the doorway. She startled, nearly dropping her supplies. Sir, she breathed, bowing quickly. He studied her, noting the fresh bruise barely concealed by makeup on her jaw. He found you again last night. Her breath caught. She looked away. Sir, I told you, it's not your concern. Silence won't protect you, he said firmly. Tears welled in her eyes. If I fight him, he hurts me. If I run, he finds me. Her voice broke, switching to English now, raw and unfiltered. I thought distance would save me, but he's everywhere. He always finds me. Min Jae said nothing for a long moment. Then quietly, why not the police? Her laugh was bitter, broken. Back home, police took his money. Here I'm nobody. No family, no connections, just cleaning supplies and fear. The words struck deeper than any boardroom betrayal. He moved closer, voice low but absolute. You're not nobody. Not anymore. And I don't negotiate with men like him. She stared up at him, caught between disbelief and fragile hope. But before she could respond, her phone vibrated, the screen illuminated. Kehinde. Her hands shook violently. She fumbled to silence it, her breathing shallow and quick. Min Jae's expression hardened. He didn't need her words anymore. The war had begun, and he intended to win it. Rain hammered Seoul that night, turning streets into rivers of reflected neon. Zara hurried from the bus stop toward her cramped apartment, coat pulled tight against the downpour. Min-jae had offered his car, but she'd insisted on normalcy, on not becoming more of a spectacle than she already was. She glanced over her shoulder. The street appeared empty, but emptiness could be deceptive. Her phone buzzed. Unknown number. Playing Queen in his castle, the message read. Time to come home. Her blood turned to ice. She shoved the phone away, quickening her pace, but then tires screeched. A van lurched to a stop beside her, side door yanking open. Hands grabbed her before she could scream. She fought, kicking, clawing, but strong arms pinned her down. The world blurred as she was dragged inside, the door slamming shut as the van roared away. In his penthouse, Choi Min-jae stood at the window, phone in hand. He'd called her 3 times. No answer. A feeling he rarely experienced, dread, spread through his chest like frost. Find her now, he commanded Junho. Traffic cameras, CCTV, everything. Within minutes, footage flickered across his monitors. Then, there, a grainy image of the van, Zara's struggling form barely visible through the window. Min-jae's expression turned to stone. Kehinde. The van stopped at an abandoned warehouse on Seoul's industrial outskirts. Doors flung open, and Zara was shoved onto cold concrete, her wrists burning from rough handling. Then he emerged from the shadows. Kehinde stood over her, eyes bright with cruel victory. Did you think he could keep you, that rich Korean with his money and guards? You're mine, Zara. You'll always be mine. Her chest heaved.
I will never be
yours again. His hand cracked across her face. Pain exploded, stars bursting behind her eyes. Don't test me, he hissed. I'll destroy you before I let him have you. Her heart pounded, but beneath the fear, anger stirred. She remembered Min-jae's words. You don't stand alone. Headlights blazed outside. Engines rumbled. The warehouse doors burst open, and Min-jae strode in, flanked by security, his presence cutting through the darkness like a blade. Let her go. His voice was ice and iron. Kehinde smirked, shoving Zara to the ground. Or what? You'll buy me off. She's mine, not yours. Min-jae stepped forward, unflinching. She belongs to herself, not you, not me, herself. The warehouse trembled with the storm about to break. The warehouse echoed with tension thick enough to choke on. Rain pounded the rusted roof, water dripping onto concrete where Zara crouched, her cheek burning from Kehinde's strike. Around her, Min-jae's security team faced off against Kehinde's hired muscle, everyone waiting for the first move. Step away from her, Min-jae commanded. Kehinde laughed, low and vicious. You think wealth makes you powerful? I built her from nothing. Every fear, every scar, mine. She belongs to me. Zara's stomach turned, shame threatening to drown her. But Min-jae's response was swift. No, you broke her, but she rebuilt herself. You own nothing here. Kehinde snarled, lunging forward. His fist swung wild. Min-jae caught it, and for a heartbeat, the warehouse held its breath. Then chaos erupted. Security clashed with Kehinde's men, bodies slamming into metal crates, the air filling with grunts and the crack of fists on flesh. Min-jae shoved Kehinde back, his own strike landing hard against the man's jaw. Kehinde staggered but charged again, rage fueling him. Zara scrambled to her feet, watching in horror as the 2 men fought. Every blow carried years of pain and months of defiance.
Stay down!
Stay down, Kehinde roared, grabbing a rusted pipe and swinging it. Min-jae ducked, the metal whistling past his head, then countered with a brutal strike to Kehinde's ribs. The man doubled over but fury. It kept him standing. Zara's pulse thundered. She'd spent years beneath Kehinde's shadow, enduring, surviving. But watching Min-jae fight her battle, she realized something. If she stayed silent now, if she let others always fight for her, then Kehinde's claim would never truly end. Her hands shook, but she reached for a broken plank lying nearby. She gripped it, breath ragged. Kehinde shoved Min-jae against a pillar, raising the pipe. She's mine, he bellowed. Zara moved. With every ounce of strength years of fear had stored inside her, she swung. The plank cracked against Kehinde's back. He stumbled, dropping the pipe, spinning toward her in shock. Through her tears, Zara shouted, her voice ringing across the warehouse. I am not yours, Not now, not ever. The words shattered something deeper than wood. Min-jae seized the moment, his fist connecting once more, sending Kehinde sprawling. Security swarmed, handcuffs snapping shut around his wrists. Silence fell, broken only by rain. Zara dropped the plank, her knees buckling. Min-jae caught her, steadying her gently. "You ended it," he said, voice rough but steady. "Not me, you." Tears streamed down her face, but this time they carried release, not just pain. Kehinde was dragged away, his threats echoing but powerless now. Zara leaned into Min-jae's solid presence, whispering but resolute. "I'm free." The warehouse reeked of rust and rain as police lights painted the walls blue. Officers swarmed, taking statements, snapping photographs. Kehinde, bleeding and handcuffed, hurled curses as they shoved him into a patrol car. His voice echoed, shrill but empty now. Zara sat on the warehouse steps, blanket around her shoulders, body trembling from exhaustion. Adrenaline drained away, leaving only hollow weariness. Her palms stung where splinters had dug in. Choi Min-jae spoke with officers nearby, his Korean clipped and authoritative. His suit was torn, knuckles raw, but his posture remained unbending. His words carried weight, ensuring this case wouldn't slip through bureaucratic cracks. When he finally approached Zara, his voice softened. "It's over. He's in custody." Her eyes lifted, red-rimmed and weary. Men like him don't stay caged. They slip through. They return. Min-jae crouched beside her, gaze steady. "Not this time. His visa expired. He has no resources, no allies. I'll personally ensure he never comes near you again." Her lips trembled. "You can't guarantee that." His jaw tightened. "Then I'll make it certain." The next morning, newspapers blazed with headlines. Choi International CEO in violent altercation, mystery woman at center. Online forums exploded with speculation. Some called Zara courageous, others spat venom. Foreigner, scandal, distraction. At the tower, stares followed her more openly. Pity in some eyes, judgment in others. She kept moving, kept working, but shame burned beneath her skin. She hadn't wanted visibility, hadn't wanted to be known like this. During lunch, she overheard executives near the elevators. "She's too much trouble. Imagine the liability. She'll ruin him. Maybe already has." Zara's chest constricted. She ducked into the restroom, gripping the sink. Her reflection, fractured by unshed tears. "I didn't ask for this," she whispered to herself. "I just wanted peace." That evening, Min-jae found her in the service corridor, shoulders hunched as she scrubbed floors. "Why are you still working?" he asked quietly. "It's my job," she replied without looking up. "You're exhausted." "I need to work," she whispered. "If I stop, they'll say they were right about me, that I'm here for pity." He stepped closer, lowering his voice. "Zara, you don't need to prove anything to them. You proved everything to yourself last night." Her eyes flickered up, raw and uncertain. "But what if I fall apart again?" His expression softened, something rare breaking through. "Then I'll remind you of your strength until you remember it yourself." For the first time since the warehouse, she let herself breathe, easier. But healing, she knew, wasn't a straight road. It was jagged and uncertain, and though Kehinde was gone, the scars would take longer to fade. Weeks passed, and the chaos surrounding that night slowly receded from Seoul's headlines. Kehinde remained in custody awaiting deportation. The scandal around Choi International quieted, though whispers persisted like smoke refusing to clear. Zara carried her battles differently now. Physical bruises faded, but internal ones remained. Some nights she woke, gasping, hands clawing sheets, mind replaying his voice, his hands, the years of fear. One morning she stood frozen in the corridor, mop in hand, unable to move. The simple act of pushing water across floors felt insurmountable, like she remained trapped in the same cycle she'd tried to escape. Min-jae found her there. He said nothing at first, simply placed a small card on her cleaning cart. She frowned, picking it up. Korean text she couldn't read. "A trauma counselor," he translated softly. "She's discreet, experienced. Go talk." Her chest tightened. "Therapy," she whispered. Min-jae's gaze remained steady. "Faith has its place, but so does healing. You fought to survive, now you must fight to live." Tears pricked her eyes. She didn't answer. But that week she found herself in a quiet office in Gangnam, listening as a kind woman with gentle eyes said, "Your past doesn't define you. What you do next will." Slowly, Zara began reclaiming pieces of herself. She started drawing again, something abandoned long before Kehinde. In the penthouse at night, Min-jae sometimes found her bent over paper scraps, lines forming into faces, cityscapes, dreams. "You draw," he said one evening, curiosity in his voice. "I used to," she admitted shyly, before everything stopped. Then, "Don't stop again." The rare softness in his tone made her cheeks warm. At work, too, she changed. Though whispers followed, she stopped keeping her head down. One afternoon, when two staff members muttered insults within earshot, Zara straightened, looked them in the eye and said, "I am not what you say I am more." Then she walked away, leaving them stunned. Later, she found Min-jae watching from a distance, pride flickering in his usually stoic expression. "You didn't need me to silence them," he observed. "No," she replied quietly, "but knowing you would have gave me courage to try." Healing wasn't sudden. Some days she laughed, other days she crumbled. But she began believing that maybe her future could be more than scars. And in moments when doubt threatened to drown her, she found herself drawn to Min-jae's presence, not because he saved her, but because he reminded her she was worth saving. The penthouse was quiet, the city sprawling beneath like an ocean of lights. Zara sat by the window, sketchbook in lap, pencil tracing Seoul's skyline. Her drawings had grown bolder recently, less hesitant, as if her hands remembered what freedom felt like. Behind her, Min-jae loosened his tie, setting aside another day of negotiations and deals. His world had always been numbers, strategy, enemies defeated through precision. But lately he found himself measuring time not by profits but by the sound of Zara's quiet laughter echoing through his home. "Why don't you sign your drawings?" he asked suddenly. Zara glanced up, startled. "What?" He nodded toward her sketchbook. "Your work deserves your name." Her lips curved faintly. "Names can be stolen, mocked, erased. A drawing doesn't need one." "But you do," Min-jae said quietly. "You're not invisible, not to me." The words lingered heavy in the air. Zara's heart thudded. For weeks, she'd felt something shifting. His gaze that held too long. The way his voice softened when he spoke to her. The rare smiles that broke through his armor. She'd tried dismissing it, afraid of leaning too heavily on anyone. But now here it was, unspoken, yet undeniable. She set the sketchbook aside. "Why me?" she whispered. "You could have anyone, someone who fits your world. Why risk everything for someone like me?" Min-jae's jaw tightened, as if searching for words he'd kept buried. At last he said, "Because for the first time I'm not protecting an empire. I'm protecting someone who makes me want more than power." Her breath caught. "You can't mean that." "I do." His voice was steady, but vulnerability lay beneath. Rare and raw. "I've built walls my entire life. You walked through them without trying. And now I don't want them anymore." Zara's throat tightened. Part of her longed to believe him, to step into the warmth of his promise, but fear clawed at her. What if I'm too broken? What if all I bring is scandal and ruin? "Then let it ruin me," Min-jae said firmly. "I would rather face ruin with you than rule alone." Tears welled in her eyes. She turned away, overwhelmed. She wasn't used to this. Love that didn't demand silence. Protection that didn't come with chains. Silence stretched, broken only by the city's hum. Then Min-jae stepped closer, stopping just behind her, his hand hovering near her shoulder, not touching, simply waiting. "Zara," he said softly, "I will never take what you're not ready to give, but know this, when you are ready, I'll be here." Her breath trembled, her heart torn between fear and fragile hope that maybe she was worth loving. And for the first time in years, she didn't feel like prey in someone's story. She felt like the beginning of her own. Spring-painted Seoul in soft whites and pinks, cherry blossoms drifting through streets like promises. For Zara, each petal felt like a whisper of something she'd never dared believe. Renewal. She walked into Choi International with steady steps, head higher than ever before. Whispers still followed, but today she didn't shrink from them. She met curious eyes with calm, pity with dignity. She was no longer the woman hiding bruises. She was Zara, survivor, fighter, artist. In the boardroom, Min-jae stood before executives, his voice crisp as he outlined new staff welfare initiatives. "We are not just a corporation," he declared. We are a community, and in this community, no one will be silenced by fear. His eyes flicked briefly to where Zara stood outside, cleaning cart nearby. Their gazes met for a fleeting moment, enough to stir something powerful in both. That evening, as the sun dipped behind Seoul's skyline, Zara sat with Min Jae in the penthouse rooftop garden. The city glowed below, alive with possibilities. She clutched her sketchbook, fingers tracing edges nervously. I drew something, she said softly. She flipped it open, revealing a portrait, not of Min Jae as the world knew him, the cold CEO, but of the man she'd come to know, steady, protective, quietly human. He studied it silent for a long time. Then, with rare gentleness, he said, "You see me more clearly than anyone ever has." Her lips trembled, "And you saw me when I didn't want to be seen." He reached out then, slowly, giving her time. When his hand brushed hers, she didn't pull away. Instead, she let the warmth seep into her bones. "Zara," he said, his voice low, almost vulnerable. "I meant every word. I don't want an empire without you in it." Her heart pounded. Fear whispered of gossip, scandal, chains disguised as care. But louder than fear was the truth she'd fought to deny. She wanted this, not as his charity, not as a shadow, but as herself. She turned fully to him, eyes shining. "Then let it be together, but not because you saved me, because I choose you." For a moment, his stoic mask cracked, replaced by something raw and unguarded. He leaned in, closing the space between them, his lips meeting hers in a kiss that carried no pity, no power, only promise. The world outside would always whisper, but here, under Seoul's sky and the drift of blossoms, Zara knew she'd finally reclaimed her life. And Min Jae, the man who once built walls taller than empires, had found his freedom not in power, but in love. Together they'd rewritten the story, not of savior and victim, but of two souls who chose each other, a new beginning.